I need support staff to clear the room. Stand up and walk, now.
Hello and welcome to The Watch. My name is Chris Ryan. I am an editor at TheRinger.com, and joining me in the studio, don't mind me, Dark Hearts, just putting a little Linda Thompson on here at the bar. It's Andy Greenwald!
Did you take that as proof that you would do well at Lefties, that they were playing, shoot out the lights or whatever?
Well, I do think that we have a situation on Task, which we're going to be talking about today on The Watch, where the musical supervision is perhaps outpacing the tastes of the characters. But we will get to that. We're going to get to a lot of things about Task. Andy, last night, you and I had the pleasure of hosting a panel talk at Vidiots, featuring Mark Ruffalo, Tom Pelphrey, Brad Ingelsby, and last night's episode's director, Salli Richardson-Whitfield. And we're going to play that in the second half of this episode. So you have some Task talk coming from the people who made it. And then we're also just going to break down the episode a little bit here. And if there's any headlines you want to talk about, tariffs, Apple withholding the Servant, whatever hot button issues you want to address.
The Servant or the Savant?
Oh, it's the Savant. They have another show called The Servant.
They've got many shows. We also have two other Jessica Chastain shows like in the hopper.
Do they really?
Oh, they've been greenlit. There's like an Art World one.
Oh.
She stays working for them. So she's like, we weren't aligned on this one, but.
How are you late night rock and roll Sunday night for us?
Listen, it was great. We had a really good time. Kai, the whole team, they showed up. They showed out.
Yeah.
Someone said from HBO was like, you guys have a great team. And I said, Chris has a great team. Yeah. I'm just part of that
You're
team.
part of my team.
I'm the long snapper.
Exactly.
You elevated me for game day. That was really fun. Everybody kind of schlepped out to my neighborhood.
Yeah.
It was, I would say, just a little extra color for everyone's going to get to listen to it. I thought we had a good talk with those guys. It was really, really nice to spend time with a creative team who so clearly enjoyed their working experience.
Yeah.
You can fake that stuff, and you certainly often do fake it, in promotional tours. But behind the scenes, and then definitely when we were doing the talk, like these guys really respected the hell out of each other in a way that was really, it was kind of contagious.
I saw
also contagious. Tom Pelphrey. So him being on the other end of the row of chairs.
Cold. I saw him.
He was respectful. He was giving us elbow bumps.
Yeah, he was, but he also loves Jose Canseco, so he was just doing Bash Brothers with us.
That's right.
I saw him and Ruffalo had a very charming moment where they were talking about their shared love for Jeff Buckley.
Were they?
Yeah, because the Buckley documentary is coming out, or is out, and that Ruffalo had just seen it, and they were like, "Oh, I love that album."
Do you think that's a spoiler for episode 5 of Task, where like the rest of J&W trash haulers show up at the quarry and they break out a little
last goodbye,
like a little blue Sonos Bluetooth thing, and just crank Buckley?
Yes,
classic Monco.
Oh God,
I love it. So
we can just get right into this episode of Task if you want to.
Well, how do you want to do it? Because we also both went to the movies. We also saw One Battle After Another, which we should probably talk about. So do we want to do a little Task talk, battle talk, back to Task, or should we just...
Let's do battle now. I just want to hear about your experience. You went and saw it. So we are lucky enough in Los Angeles to have this incredible collection of movie theaters, especially large format movie theaters. So I got to see it at IMAX and City Walk last week and then talked extensively about it on The Big Picture. You're also going on The Big Picture, so perhaps we'll share some thoughts there.
Though I have no idea I could be going on to get pranked. I don't actually know why
they don't do
on.
that there. They keep it real tight. I'm surprised you haven't received a full rundown from Sean.
I have received nothing. Only Jack was like, "You still want to do this?" And maybe he was like, "This feels a little
Can I give you a tip when you walk in there?
Please.
Don't tease Sean about the Mets.
Listen,
yeah.
Have you?
No, you do that.
No.
You always text me and you're like, should I text Bill and be like, ha, the Celtics?
First of all, that was unnecessary. Just aired me out.
He does the same to us.
Yeah. It's not just he does the same to us. I've received 2 texts from Bill Simmons in the last 6 months. Both of them have been on group chains where he's like, look at your stupid team.
And then there's like 9 dudes whose phone numbers you don't have saved.
Yes.
And it's like, Andy, eat shit.
Yeah. So that's cool. Yeah. Second, there was no point during the last few weeks of the Mets' truly epic $300 million collapse that I actually texted him or any of the other Mets fans in my life.
Yeah.
That's too dark.
I know. I went up to Jack yesterday, Jack Sanders, who produces The Big Picture and is also a big Mets fan, and I offered my condolences.
How was it received?
I thought level-headedly.
Yeah.
I will not be bringing it up with Sean.
Did you bring up that Trey Turner won the batting crown with a 304 batting average?
It's
a real dead ball era
what happened
shit.
to the game I love?
It's so nuts.
We used to hit singles in this country.
We used to hit.
Yeah.
So no, I'm not prepared for that. But you were talking about formats, and I was very excited to see One Battle After Another in the format in which it was filmed.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I learned about 6 weeks ago called VistaVision, and I got to see it at the Vista Theater, which I did not know is one of the 4 theaters in America showing the movie in this format. So I had a great experience. We'll talk about the movie. Maybe this will come up on Big Pick, but that's the church of cinema, and this is, we're just sort of partying outside here, so I could talk about it. The level of seriousness with which some people do approach the format stuff is beyond me. When we were entering, there was a huge line because the Vista is not like assigned seats. So it was enthusiastic, people ready to support movies. But there was someone at the front of the line handing out little like stamp cards for one format after another. And I was like, sir, you grossly overestimate my ability, A, to see movies, and B, how liquid I am.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I did see the movie.
And also probably your passion for formats.
I think that's exactly right.
Right.
The other thing that I learned...
the world's most foremost Christopher Nolan on the backseat of a plane watcher. Yeah.
Whatever. I want the movies to meet me where I am.
Yeah.
And that's 30,000 feet over the mid-Atlantic. I also learned, and again, maybe you knew this, that VistaVision is, in fact, not a large vista. That it is a more compact ratio.
Yes.
So when you're in the last row, because you only showed up an hour before the movie, maybe you have a different experience with it.
I mean, I think that that actually is sort of contributing to like this interesting stratification that I feel like is happening around certain releases, which is, I'm a fucking movie nerd, and I love going to movie theaters here in Los Angeles and seeing things in unique ways. But I do want as many people to feel like they are getting the movie that Paul Thomas Anderson made as possible. I think that one thing that you see is this like booming cinephile culture that obviously is thriving on Letterboxd and is like really, really inspiring in some ways. But it's not even a concern troll. I just want I want people in Marlton, New Jersey to also go see this movie. And even if it's just at your AMC, like it's on a normal projection.
You're still seeing it in the movie theater.
Yeah.
I completely agree with that. Let's not overcomplicate this.
Sure.
But it was really exciting. And it was very exciting to see it in a full theater.
You went into it similarly to the way I did, which was with the weight of expectations.
Yeah.
Where it's just, these are pretty uniformly not just good reviews, like once in a career reviews for even PTA movies. Do you feel like that affected the way you watched it?
Possibly, because I think when you just get the ambient, and I should say, I loved it. I can't wait to, and I genuinely, format agnostic, I need to see it again. But I do think that elevating ambient elevation, that this is somehow like not just a PTA movie, that this is a generational masterpiece.
Yeah.
It's impossible for that not to seep in. And so then when the movie does the things that I think I will grow to love even more in the second and third viewing, which is the super PTA kind of like digressions or tone shifts, I was almost taken aback by them as opposed to going along the journey with them. Because there are moments, especially early in the movie, where it's so... Actually, throughout the movie, I'll just say it. Like, one of the most electric aspects of seeing this movie is the vibe you only get when an artist is both truth-telling and telepathic. That, like, he has been working on some sort of spiritual adaptation of the Pynchon novel Vineland, right, for over a decade. I think on the Big Pick, I think he said 20 years he's been sort of kicking it around. He filmed this a year and a half ago more. He did not know what it would feel like to be in America in 2025, but he absorbed it or precog. What's the Minority Report thing?
Yeah.
To feel art that is absolutely in sync with the moment in which it is released is such a rare thing. And it was exhilarating and at times like almost oppressive in its immediacy.
Yeah.
And I loved that. And I think that also might be why there were certain moments when, again, he does his very PTA things, which is why I love him in the first place, where it steps backward almost into silliness, or repeats certain beats, or lingers a little bit too long, or is dismissive of something that another filmmaker would turn into an entire meal, like the shootout at the like the gas station near the end. I found myself like almost yearning to grab the wheel, and that's not something you do in a PTA movie. So the fact that there's so much left on the bone for me to like get to once I've gotten those first viewing jitters out makes me really, really excited, but also makes me feel almost like talking about it as an incomplete. My reactions.
Yeah, I don't want to get into spoiler territory because obviously, like, I hope that a lot more people see the movie, and we just like don't need to go through beat by beat. To your point about it being timely, I also thought it was timeless. You know, I was spending some time driving this weekend, and I was trying to sort of like map out the timeline of the movie because there's a time jump in it, and you know, some of it takes place 15 years prior to like the main action of the film, I think. But I was also like, so that would make that this year, that year, and then this goes up to like our current moment. And I was just like, why am I trying to
solve it? Yeah.
Why am I doing like the Wayland Yutani chronology for a PTA movie that is largely a work of adaptation and imagination? But I feel like really grateful about it. And like, I can't wait. And it's also kind of seeped into my consciousness in a way that really you only get like once or twice a year, where like I've listened to the Johnny Greenwood score a bunch of times, listened to playlists people have made of the soundtrack.
Johnny blacked out on this score.
Yeah. And I started like so even good. Like listening to music like the music that's in it. You know, I want to dive into Vineland again, which I read, but I think read too young. Maybe.
My copy of Vineland spent a lot of quality time with me in London in the first part of the year.
2 pages in?
But it sat in the window. I think it had a nice view, you know, of the neighborhood.
You know what's funny? I was I've been reading mostly novels this year, and you and I both have been on this Oliver Harris kick, who's a British spy novelist that we're really into. So because I was reading these spy novels, I decided to read a book called The Ghost, which is a biography of James Angleton, who is a very famous, infamous U.S. spy. And
he's the one who basically ran an endless mole hunt.
Yes.
He was the most paranoid man in the history of intelligence.
Yeah, is honestly like the character in the Bureau who... JJA is named after him. Plays him. It's really funny to go to nonfiction after reading almost exclusively fiction, and just how matter-of-fact dudes will just be like, and he was a fascist. I'm like, all right.
Well, if you say so. I mean, but that's actually a really interesting way to consider one battle after another also, which is, and I wonder if people, like casuals who are seeing it, if casuals are seeing it, if it does get what I think everyone in the industry, outside of the industry, is hoping. It's funny to note, just as a side note, that like, it used to be that like on opening weekends, rival studios would be like on deep background to Paul Darabadian or whatever, and being like, that's a shit opening. Like this movie's doomed. And now everyone in town is like, give it time. It's got legs. We need this to succeed.
Although we have seen over the course of the summer with Sinners and Weapons that there's, you know, usually you get a Marvel movie and then it's like 63% drop off the next weekend now that the geeks have seen it. And this is like, I think people are hoping that word of mouth spreads.
Although judging by me and my colleagues at the Vista, the geeks have also seen this early. But anyway, I was just going to say that this movie is fiction in a very, very like intentional way. Like the names are very Pynchon-esque, you know, the ones that he made up, and the extravagances of it and the imagination of it. And it's fiction in a way that I find incredibly engaging and thrilling and exciting, but isn't really the way a lot of mainstream art is intended or crafted or received these days, right? There's a lot of like, well, it wouldn't really happen that way. Or like, let's solve for this, right?
Yeah.
And I think that this movie is so aggressively fiction in a wonderful way that some people might not be used to that. I think that's good for the world to have something like that out in it. And just a couple other bullet points. Where would you where would you rank this Leo performance in your personal pantheon? You don't need to, I'm not going to hold you to it. I'm just putting you on the spot here. I was talking to my daughters about this on the way. They were asking me what I thought about the movie.
Your daughter's big Shutter Island heads.
My daughters are like, these posters for them are like, I'm trying to think of an example of like Dorian Gray shit. Like, they're so horrified that Leo is a 50-year-old man because they've seen Titanic and some of Romeo and Juliet, that like, this is an abomination to them. And I was like, get ready. Get ready for the rest of your lives, girls. But they were, of course, they were like, well, Titanic is his best performance. And I was like, let me show you the Quaalude scene from Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, I think for me, probably sentimentally and personally, The Departed is my favorite Leo performance.
Great performance.
Wolf, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Body of Lies.
I thought you were going to say The Beach. I think...
No, not Body of Lies.
The Post... I don't know what the first movie that kind of introduced this kind of like broadly goofy Leo into the world is. Whether it's like whether it was, he's not
Don't
goofy.
Look Up, maybe
He's not goofy in Django, but he is arch.
Oh God, that's top 3 for me.
His performance in Wolf, his performance in Hollywood, but especially this one, like this is top 3 for me already. I think it's an astounding performance. I think it is so funny. I'm obsessed with the fact, and this is also something that I think would be rewarded in rewatches, that the hero of the movie, the nominal hero of the movie, Bob, does nothing, succeeds at nothing, accomplishes nothing, except he's a hashtag good dad.
Yeah.
And
I've seen people say that. I push back on that a little bit, but
you think he's a problematic parent?
No, I think he accomplished. I mean, like I think he does a lot.
But I just mean in terms of his role in the French 75, his role in society during the 16 years, even when he's
a
chased
passenger.
out,
Yeah,
he's a passenger along everyone else. And I kind of I found that to be it felt like a very personal movie in that way. To PTA, and I found that really fascinating. And I think you saw this coming for me because you saw the movie before I did. But the end wrecked me. Like the end is, and we won't spoil it, but the last 2 lines of dialogue, like atom bombed my heart, and I'm not recovered from it. Like that's the new "want to have a catch dad" as far as I'm concerned. And as a hashtag girl dad, like there's no going back for me from this movie. And the fact that a movie like this contains that much note perfect sentiment, and also Saturday Night Live legend Jim Downey of Jeff Epstein with The Island, I would have heard coining the phrase "semen demon."
Yes.
There's something for everyone in this film.
Being a girl dad is a great segue to this episode of Task. Should we take it?
Well done.
All right. So episode 4, All Roads. This one's written by Brad Ingelsby and directed by Salli Richardson-Whitfield. It is, we can go 2 directions with this conversation. We'll get to both of them. But do you want to talk about the human drama moments, or do you want to talk about the crime thriller moments? Because I have stuff for both.
I think we should probably start with the crime thriller stuff because that is the noisiest part and in some ways the most confusing part. And we should say again, our talk now is going to be followed by the talk we had with the creators and actors last night. We didn't get in the weeds with it so much. Yeah, it's
somewhat artificially capped because you've got the person who wrote the series and someone who directed almost half of it. And you've obviously got the performers. So the conversation taking place basically at the midway point in the season caps what they can say about what the piece itself meant to them or whatever.
And also the nature of the event last night kept us from saying, no, but really, Brad, how did he get the phone?
Well, let's talk about how did he get the phone?
Because we love the show and we have faith in his vision as a creator. And I also am fairly confident, having not watched ahead, that the next episode will make some of those beats clearer. But it is worth noting that in the sense of like the masterful navigation thus far through this thicket of characters and themes and betrayals has been really, really clear. And this was the first time when I had to like rewind a couple times and still feel not entirely. I think I understand what's essential to understand about a mole, or perhaps moles have diverted the phone, put that phone in the hands of the Dark Hearts, and thus exit Cliff.
Let's break it down. Okay. In the beginning of the episode, when the task force is having a larger meeting with some other law enforcement who are going to be assisting them with this bust at the park, or this prospective bust at the park. Aaliyah is holding up Ray's phone
in an evidence bag.
And she's like, we have been communicating with Cliff as a prospective drug buyer.
Yep.
So he thinks he's meeting us tonight. We're all going to be there 3 hours early. We're going to be in place. There's a possibility that the kid, Sam, is going to be in the car. So it's a live wire situation.
Yep.
We have to also approach this as if it's also a rescue as well as a bust.
Right.
Okay. Throughout the episode, but especially in subsequent scenes, like really early on in it, after that briefing, we are getting hints and lingering shots. And we've sort of broken... There's a very thin wall that crime shows have where it's like, and we've talked about this a lot, whether or not the characters on the show are at the exact same place as the audience, or whether the audience is outpacing the characters. And this is one of the hardest things there is to balance as a writer, I'm sure, as a novelist, as a filmmaker, whatever it is.
Not a nonfiction writer. They know more, and they're fascists. Very declarative.
So early on, we get I would say a couple of, that's why they cast Martha Plimpton shots, because she is obviously an incredibly accomplished actress and a well-known person. So casting her as Kathleen McGinty to just be like, I'm too old for this shit 3 times seems like a waste. So it's not a huge shock that at least we are being tipped towards the idea that McGinty is in some part the leak on the law enforcement side, leaking information to the dark arts.
And that is, the thumb is on the scale for that as well, because in the van outside at the park, like where in Tom's little control center, where she is as well, there's a line of dialogue, and I'm sure I noted it down, but I didn't highlight it in my notes, where there's some comment about there being a mole or there being some mistrust, and then
she dismisses it.
Not just that, the edit cuts to her. Like, this is Salli and Brad talked a lot
it's
about their collaboration.
It's essentially the crime thriller version of Jim Halpert face. It's like, instead of selling the joke, you're selling, it could be her. Now,
and Salli and Brad did talk about the work they did, extensive work they did in the edit on this episode to help shape it and help guide the audience where they wanted the audience to be.
This is the delicate thing.
So it could be a misdirect.
Everybody wants it to be a shock, but they also want the shock to make sense.
To feel earned, yeah.
And there's one way of doing that, which is, forgive me for spoiling Usual Suspects, but it's the Kaiser Soze reveal.
I don't get the reference.
Where it all happens at the end.
Yes.
Right? You're watching it the first time through and you're just like, oh my God, who's Kaiser Soze? Who's Kaiser Soze? Is it another person that we haven't seen? And it turns out it's not. And that all of that is sort of contextualized.
Do you want me to spoil it?
No. Let's let people enjoy Kevin Spacey and Bryan Singer's work. Just,
Wow. The best possible way to spoil it, by celebrating 2 of our great icons of cinema.
Or you can be the camera lingers. And this is an interesting choice that they made where Ruffalo's character, Tom, leaves the room and we stay with Kathleen McGinty and get her calling saying, hey, we got a problem. Now, she could be calling her contractor. I don't know.
I think we know. The question is how many people are.
Yes, because I have a hard time believing that the person who is largely seems to be in charge of Philadelphia law enforcement is going to also be rooting around in evidence lockers right at this crucial moment.
Yes. So thus the cloud of suspicion has not lifted off of the other members of the task force, particularly Aaliyah, who is the last one we see with the phone.
She's the last one we see with the phone, and we have spent the least amount of time with her personally.
And Grasso remains a suspect for a number of reasons, one of which being he tells Tom that he was interviewed by some lady, which connects them.
But also pretends like he can't remember her name, which seems unlikely. And then 2, his sudden crisis of faith.
He
is the reverse semen demon.
He is... Actually, I think the reverse semen demon would be something else.
That's right.
And we probably shouldn't cover that on this podcast. However, I might bring it over to our friends at The Big Pick. It's a much safer place to discuss.
If somebody skipped the one battle part and just jumped to that would be confusing. What I mean is he suddenly has this, I guess you could say, kind of sweet and consistent with his character, crisis of conscience, where he's like, but kind of old-fashioned and a bit odd, where he's like, I don't want to have our first time, meaning his and Lizzie's first time having sex, in your marriage bed.
Yes.
Which is fine, but odd. And I read that personally as this guy knows that he is engaged in betrayal
and sin
and doesn't want to further complicate things.
I felt that as well. But I also credit the show for doing the legwork to make that kind of crisis of faith, of confidence, plausible within the bounds
of Grasso, who's casting around about faith.
Keeps asking Tom questions about being a priest or not being a priest, or how he felt about it, how he feels. So, you know, he is in the midst of his journey too. That's, not to step on it, but Brad gives a very insightful and interesting answer in our conversation that you guys will hear later about where he likes to engage with characters on their own internal arcs and journeys, and that tracks. So it's the best scenario. It's good on both sides.
Is there any part of you that see? This is honestly not the most interesting part of the show to me. Is like, who's the mole?
Totally.
I remember having this conversation. Maybe I actually wrote about it when The Night Of came out, and the first couple of episodes of The Night Of, you're just like, I cannot believe the world of New York that this show is building, and how amazing, you know, the depth of feeling and the depth of like perception that this show has. And then it becomes like, who done it? Who really did it then? And that's fine. All shows need to arrive there. All crime shows eventually need to solve their crime in question. I honestly, you could make a case for any one of these people. Like Grasso, I can understand. Lizzie, it would be strange at this point, but also like, she is kind of like at once very gifted, but also vulnerable because clearly her life is sort of spinning out of control on the outside. Aaliyah, we just don't know a ton about other than her monologue last week that even I think we broached the idea that could have been performance in some way. In any case, that's happening. And on the flip side of it, you know, the Dark Hearts are slowly making their way.
Not so slowly.
Well,
this whole show has happened in 4 days.
I was just going to say, slowly making their way through the huge amount of volumes of photo books that motorcycle gangs keep.
They're very nostalgic people. That's incredible. It's true.
This is like Stringer Bell. Like, are you taking notes on a criminal conspiracy? It's like,
hey, we're having a gang meeting.
Are
guys,
you taking lots of group photos?
Get together. Should we take our guns off? No. I want to see him in all the pictures.
If they got RICO charges, it would just be like in evidence, the collected photographic evidence.
And they're all in like the folders that they used to give you at the drugstore that says like Coda-Color on the front.
Reading rally. You know, like the site of a shooting that we participated in.
And it's just a bunch of guys being like, over a dead body.
In any case, that's Perry is searching for his own mole. And he seems to have at least started to arrive at it by finding a picture at the very end of Maeve with Billy, and Billy holding his holster and the gun that was used in the shooting.
I don't think it's belaboring the point to just say again that like all serialized dramas are to an extent puzzle boxes with something to be solved. The best of them, and I would through 4 episodes put Task in that category, hide that. You know, they build on if the puzzle box part is the skeleton, like the muscle, blood, sinew, all that other stuff is literally in my tortured metaphor the meat of the show. And so, to your point, like I don't really care who the mole is. I don't have odds on FanDuel about it. I'm really excited to see where the story takes us and what we gain from it.
I also like, whether it's intentional or not, what it says about how hard it is to just do one thing.
One task, if you will.
Yeah. Because think about a conventional show, or another version of this show would be Robbie and Tom on this kind of like, we are just going to collide at some point. This is heat. You know, we're the best at what we do. Robbie's not the best at what he does. He just fucked up basically the biggest deal of his life. And, you know, by trusting Cliff and Cliff's contacts, but also just in general, like, I think he's got pie in the sky ideas and almost childlike ideas about going to Canada and living on an island and having Swiss Family Robinson up there. And Tom is like kind of barely holding it together. His home life is coming apart. And now he's got to worry more about who from his side is leaking information than just finding this kid, which is supposed to be his job.
Well, I'll take it a step further. He's so far from the best at what he does that in the world in which McGinty is a mole or has a second allegiance, she put him in this job
on purpose.
On purpose,
yeah,
because he isn't.
This guy's handing out pamphlets at like trade fairs.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you extrapolate it further, there's the possibility that this task force was put together to serve the Darkheart's interest to find out, with the full engine of the state behind it, who's robbing them.
Yeah.
And then to make everything go away.
Well, that's a very good point, because you would say she sure put she identifies it's Darkhearts for him.
Yeah.
And then Grosso gives him a certain amount of information, and we have a couple of outside law enforcement people who say very important things like don't trust anyone.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know how on the ball Tom is with this stuff, because he's obviously got a lot going on.
It also ties into, I think, one of Brad Ingelsby's like main themes in this work, if not all of his work, is that all society is a collection of systems and that kind of work in concert with each other, good and bad, cop and criminal. Robbie, as a sort of noble failure, is a wild card.
Mm-hmm.
He's the radical in this. And both sides need that stamped out, unfortunately. And particularly unfortunately, because it's like, he just, and I brought this up again with him in the thing we did last night, so I'll let him speak to it. When I say him, I mean Brad. But like, he does not let up in his storytelling. Like a more enjoyable, not enjoyable, but like a more, like a lighter entertainment version of Heat, which would get a 10-star rating, 5-star rating for you on Letterboxd.
Yeah,
would be all about the action, the juice of the pursuit. There wouldn't be time, because I think everyone watching the show is like, I don't think this is going to work out awesome for Robbie. We don't actually know what's going to happen, but it doesn't seem great. We wouldn't have spent this much time on the father-daughter dance practice. They just wouldn't have done it.
That was like we're starting to get into the tragedy aspect. We've lost Cliff in a brutal, brutal way.
Can I talk about that for a second?
Okay.
Or you want to finish your thought?
I just think that like everything now is starting to point in the wrong direction for people,
that scene was devastating. It was beautifully shot by Salli. It was Tom Pelphrey, saddest eyes in the biz.
Yeah. Really like an incredible, that must have been an awesome episode as an actor, because you get to have a prologue moment. Still sad because his wife is sort of drifting away from him. We don't
But he
really
gets to play the other version of himself.
Yeah, he gets to play the younger version of himself. We get to see him with his brother. We get to see him in happier times, more or less. And then we get this moment where he thinks, everything is going to be okay because, we've decided we're going to go to Canada. Then that gets shot down by Maeve with some like really basic follow-up questions. And he gets this grace moment with his daughter, but feels it's starting to feel a little McBainy,
Unfortunately so. Speaking of McBainy, Cliff, I don't think anybody had odds that Cliff was coming out of this episode.
Yes.
On 2 feet.
And it's a little confusing because, like, obviously there's this car stealing situation, and Cliff steals a car that looks a lot like the car that eventually gets rushed. They're both white sedans, I think.
Oh, you mean the car that the people are looking for their dog?
Yeah. And so there's a lot of misdirection. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how much of it is conscious among the criminals versus what the show did to just sort of throw us off.
Right.
And then on top of that, when did the buy get changed from the park to wherever they're meeting somewhere?
Right. And that's
like off the Wissahickon somewhere,
And the inference is that it changed when someone else was pretending to be Ray.
Yes, that they were like, actually meet me over here.
Meet me here. Okay, I have to talk about Cliff. Great actor, great performance.
Raul Castillo.
I'm in a zag. Kind of got off easier than I thought, to be honest with you.
His brains were like coming out of his head. Yeah.
But he was alive.
Uh-huh.
We've seen could just gone into the blue tent for a little bit.
I gotta say, getting saran wrapped is like one of my top ways I don't want to go out.
Listen, I don't want to
It's
tell.
like Shark.
Go for it.
I think like any kind of skydiving accident where I'm like, I have like time to think about what's going to happen.
Oh, you mean every time I'm on an airplane?
Don't say that.
That's just what I think about. I'm not saying it's going to happen.
That I don't mind.
I know. You ride the waves up there. You're like Garrett on 100-foot wave up in the sky, chasing the big ones. It's beautiful for you. Maybe I should be more like CJ next time I get on a international flight.
Yeah.
Well, this is where nature's taking me. No, I'm not saying that he had a pleasant
just
exit
watching
from
Tenet
Earth.
on a 3-inch screen.
The way God intended. It's more that, far be it from me to tell Jason how to do his job. I have never been in management.
Jason,
let alone, the very stressful position.
I think he's a move fast and
middleman.
break things kind of guy.
It's just that I feel like Cliff had more to tell him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know what? With advanced interrogation, I don't know where we're at. It's like, I don't know what, do you guys have like if I put this guy through this much pain, I get this much information?
No, I'm gonna go galaxy brain on you here and say, I don't think it's about doing the Sicario to people or doing the Zero Dark 30.
Yeah.
One thing that I learned, and I think it's true, I didn't learn, but one thing that was illustrated by one battle after another, and I don't think it's a spoiler. If it is, hit 10 seconds. People seem resigned to their own fates at different times when being confronted with, the opposing forces or being interrogated. But as soon as the interrogator is just like, how's your sister doing? Then they spill, right? As soon as it becomes you're responsible for other people who didn't choose this life. So I'm just making a note. Look, broadly speaking, Dark Hearts, there's a more relatable workplace comedy there, I think, that I don't believe we're going to get into.
Dark Hearts can't be broken.
But we learned in this episode that Perry, has the autonomy to go around, interrupt people's dinner, wrap chains around his hands, and punch his direct reports in the mouth. But even he's got a boss.
I love that. I love that little moment.
I did too.
I also love that guy being like, my thing about this motorcycle club is I drive a car. That's how fucking bad I am.
He probably doesn't even take
I've gone
photos.
all the way back around to having a Cutlass,
because it's like two motorcycles with a nice chair.
It's like when you put two single beds together.
It's better.
Yeah.
That guy really cracked the code.
European hotels right there.
Why do they still do that?
I don't know.
Do you remember when last year we went to Norway for the media festival? We had a very nice time. But one of the most confounding things about the hotel in Bergen was that it was, like many European hotels, like two twin beds that you could join if you wanted company. But there were
if you wanted.
Oh no, it wasn't. It was one queen size bed, but two individual blankets, two individual quilts.
That's how Scandies do it, though.
So
why would you share a blanket?
Because it's like inefficient, they think?
I think it's just like, it's inhumane that people have different body temperatures.
Yeah, but you can flip off part of it. Like, I feel like the whole point of like sharing a bed with someone is like you share the whole experience. You can't like half-ass
share the whole experience. I think that ultimately, like, I like the way they do things over there.
Well, some things seem to have worked out. Like, absolutely, you got me on the social contract.
There's nothing like a ton of dried fish for breakfast,
Kaya, do you want to weigh in on this? Like, do you feel, you've traveled in Europe recently, do you have a preference?
The double duvets is not just a Scandi thing. That was very common.
European.
Yeah, I think it's just a European thing. I personally love a double duvet.
Me too.
And I think America should adopt that.
Wow.
Yeah, just like you can have your blanket. Wow. You want to strip it off and throw it over there.
Just a couple of NIMBYs standing in the way of my abundance agenda.
I don't really think it's the overproduction of duvets that's going to put this planet in the
first
dumpster.
Of all, the way tariffs are going on duvets from Europe, we'll never be able to have this conversation in good faith. But second, I'm just saying, like, I believe in more of a communitarian existence.
What if we, for America, we should just make one big blanket that we all sleep under in this country?
Honestly, we should make one big saran wrap and just all go out like Cliff together, because that's what it feels like every day.
Haven't you heard that's how we treat COVID now?
Well, look where we've ended up. Just another week of podcasting in the books. Oh, it's Monday. Can I also make a point? Well, you know what? No, I'll save this because this came up in our conversation with the gang.
Okay.
Did you have any thoughts about, without saying whether it's like an admission of guilt or anything, but that Grasso and what's her name's
Lizzie.
Lizzie's date is happening after the botched.
I just note with interest that if that meeting was supposed to happen at 11 p.m., it looks like it was cold and wet outside. Lizzie's got that hood up.
Yep.
Then cut to they are at a bar and she's showered. She's got, like, her hair has been straightened. She's done her hair. So that would mean, and but Grasso was referring to, man, that went
crazy.
That up.
Yeah.
I assume that's the same night. So that would mean like they have gotten home, showered, then met back up again and stayed out for several beers. That's pushing Philly's like a 1:30 a.m. last call, right?
Yeah, but you know what? I'm just going to let them have a pass on this because they're young people and they're able to like have a different work-life balance than I am. Like when you said went home and went out again, my eyes glazed over. I was like, that is psychopath behavior. Yeah. Why would anyone ever do that?
I'd love to be in a world where I did that.
We used to do that.
Yeah.
And look at us now. Can't remember a thing.
You remember when we used to start going out at 10 p.m. in New York City? What would we do until then?
Not eat dinner, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
I mean, play PlayStation?
Play PlayStation? Yeah. Read Vineland?
God, that's so sick. Wait, now you're making me yearn for it.
Why did I pronounce Vineland like Grantland?
Vinland?
Yeah. Yeah, I noted that. I noted that with interest.
Just the other thing before we get into the conversation, the show, I don't know if everyone's having the same reaction to the show as this specifically, but like we talked last week about how the longer running times, just for me anyway, hit different. Like I'm enjoying the pace of the show. Yes. And one of the reasons why I enjoy the pace of the show is that this episode, for example, is shaped a certain way. You're expecting fireworks at the end, which don't actually come in the way you predict that they're going to come. But even so, Brad is so talented at, I think, feeding people either what they want or what they don't even realize they need tonally, so that we're building up all this anticipation for the park stakeout. And then not only do we get the misdirect with the couple and the dog, we get Lizzie saying, you know, how do I get cool patches? And I'm going to call you Bullseye.
Yeah.
Which is just such a nice like mood lightener in that moment. It's just being conducted very well. And I think that kind of execution comes from, not to be infer too much from like one evening with these people, but I think that you can draw a straight line from the balance and the rhythm of the show to the way these people clearly collaborated.
I think also like even the moments where you could say, it seems like Robbie could have called Bartos the truck driver.
It's a sick name.
That seems like a text message. Like, cool, can you meet me? I'll Venmo you, whatever. But it sets up, first of all, Robbie, I think they don't know who to trust.
Yeah.
They're trying to do this as much in person as possible. And B, he has not thought this through. No. Like, he's got this kid with him and he doesn't really seem to know exactly what to do as this kid's caretaker. This kid is now becoming wise to the fact that there is something very strange going on.
He saw some stuff.
And on top of that, I thought that whole situation where he disappears and then this guy sees like a kid in the creek and is like, you know, what the hell is going on? Brought out a different side of Robbie than the one we've seen. And obviously this dude has like a rage streak.
Do you think that Maeve would have been more on board with the plan if Robbie had said, this guy Bartos is a truck driver, he's going to drive us to Canada. And then instead of pulling out a pamphlet, he pulled out a large leather-bound book of photos of Bartos's truck, of like all the rest stops between there and Canada, and one of them labeled escape route in case of trouble.
Right.
Like, do you think that would have helped?
I love that Maeve's just like, I don't want to do that.
That sounds dumb.
I didn't do anything that requires me to leave like this. Like, if anything, I want to go to fucking Brooklyn.
By the way, that is literally what my older daughter said to me last week when I suggested mini golf. Like, this, leaving this house was not part of our negotiation. Yeah. I refuse.
Anything else on task this week?
No.
On Thursday, I think we'll do a little bit of a Slow Horses catch up.
Sure.
We could do some lowdown. Anything else that you're enjoying watching? It's really about you.
Well, we haven't really talked about it, but I think English Teacher has been great so far this season. I mean, so far they dumped the whole thing. I've only watched a couple. And you sneaky guy, you jumped platonic That was the show that Kaya and I covered.
I know. I couldn't handle being left out.
And then you finished the season. I haven't even done that yet.
My wife was just homesick one day and was just like running through all of Platonic.
It's
and
a
I was
dream
like, this
show
is
for that.
pretty fun.
Great show.
All right, so let's get into our conversation that we had at Vidiots last night after screening of the 4th episode. You'll hear from Brad Ingelsby, the creator, writer of the show, Salli Richardson-Whitfield, who directed 3, 4, and the upcoming 6th episode. And of course, Tom Pelphrey, who plays Robbie, and Mark Ruffalo, who apparently was the Hulk. And I was surprised to see a lot of people asking him to sign stuff. And I was like, are you guys Zodiac fans? Like, what's going on? And I was like, oh yeah, that dude is in 8 of the biggest movies of all time.
You didn't see the guy with the Funko Pop of Mark Ruffalo and You Can Count on Me?
I know.
It's like young Mark Ruffalo on a park
Sign
bench.
my spotlight jacket. No, Mark Ruffalo, these guys were all great. I hope you enjoy it. I think you can also watch it, right? You can also watch it. The crew is awesome to come out and film and record all this. We will be back on Thursday running through some other shows that are on, and we'll talk to you soon. I'm Chris Ryan.
Oh, I'm Andy Greenwald.
Thank you so much for coming out for this special screening of Task. Without further ado, let me bring everybody out here. First of all, the creator of Task, Brad Ingelsby. The director of the episode you just watched, plus several others from the season, Salli Richardson-Whitfield. And of course, the stars of this show, Mark Ruffalo and Tom Pelphrey.
Thank you.
Guys, thanks so much for doing this. Thanks for coming out. What an amazing show. Give yourselves a round of applause, everybody, for everybody involved with Task.
Thank you for having us, guys. I really appreciate it.
This is sort of unique. We don't usually get to do like a mid-season screening, check-in with the cast. This is kind of awesome. It's usually for a first episode or a last episode. It makes asking questions a little bit difficult because we don't want you guys to feel like you're in spoiler territory. So I'll keep it broad with you. Brad, to start with. It's such a balancing act, I would imagine, in assembling the show in terms of its structure, because you've got a whodunit, you've got 2 characters on a collision course, multiple mole hunts now, but you've also got all of these human character beats that I think is what is bonding people to the show in the first place. So can you talk to me a little bit about assembling something that's got all these genre elements, but also this human drama?
It's something that we struggle with sometimes in the edit, really, Chris, is trying to keep a balance, but it really is always about the characters. And I think whenever we're in the edit or even in the writing process where you feel like the plot is overwhelming the show in some way, I always have to stop and check myself and say, what is the show really about? It's about these characters, and it's about the emotional arcs of the characters, and never letting the plot have to take over that part of the show. So, and yet we also have to move the plot along. There needs to be an engine. There needs to be a moment where the audience gets to the end of the episode and they want to keep going. And so I think it is a balancing act. And I think I have to put myself in the viewer's shoes in the edit, in the writing process, and say, what is the right amount of emotion and plot? And I have to ask myself, am I able to care about these characters? And are we servicing the plot? So it's kind of a bit of trial and error, really, of just saying, are we on the right path, and are we not losing sight of what the show's really about?
That said, Brad, you may have tipped your hand a little bit in this episode, and I'm sure Philadelphia eagle-eyed viewers would notice that over the course of this season, when things were going relatively decently for the characters, they were drinking Yingling. This episode, they seem to exclusively be drinking Rolling Rock. So I'm wondering what you were saying about the emotional narrative power of our favorite watery domestic lagers.
I didn't even notice that, Andy. I can't take any credit for that one. I really can't.
Mark noticed, I could tell.
For Tom and Mark, how crucial, I mean, this goes without saying, but how crucial was filming in Delco, filming in the greater Philadelphia area, not only to finding like the literal accents and voices of the characters, but also for building out maybe backstories, biographies? I mean, did you find yourself, immersing yourselves in Philadelphia high schools and like learning a little bit about local history? How did that work?
There will be a quiz after, just to be clear.
This is a quiz. there's just something you can never get by shooting in a place that isn't where you're actually located in a show. It's just everywhere you look, it's the light, it's the feeling, it's the cars, it's the stores, it's the people. And it's always, if you let it, it will always be informing you. And it's the food. I started with a fake belly, and that just kept getting bigger and bigger as my real belly underneath it was getting bigger and bigger. And my wife came to visit me, and she said to my family, "Well, your father's eating his way through Philly." So that was I did a tour of the Philly food, and that ended up being my character's biggest.
Anything particular you couldn't quit?
What is it? A pork sandwich with
pork
broccoli
sandwiches.
Rob?
Yeah.
That was great. That's the one well, not in this episode, but in one episode, I'm just plowing a sandwich. And that was I just had no idea the camera was running during that.
And Tom, you're not from Philly. You're from Jersey originally, which we'll forgive for the sake of this day. And come on. That's what we should.
Let's go blue.
We all won
I
today.
love it. I love it. When you live far enough north in New Jersey, everybody treats you like you're another borough of New York. And then you live far enough south in New Jersey, and they think it's just an extension of Philadelphia. Like, we do have an actual state. We're all proud to live there. We're proud to be from there. Sorry.
So congratulations on Jackson Dart. And but beyond that, one of the crazy things about the show is discovering how many of the members of the cast are not from America at all and are adopting this accent. I was wondering if you felt, like a regional ambassador and welcoming people and trying to show them the ropes. Did you?
My entire
The whole
task force was not American.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, it was amazing. To your question about filming in the area, it reminded me so much of where I grew up. The vibe on set was great. Like, the crew is just constantly busting my chops. That's what I'm used to, being the way of showing affection and knowing that you're safe. Is like, if you can make fun of me, then we care about each other. Yeah. This is a safe space. And that's such a particular East Coast thing. I remember taking that out west when I was younger, and it didn't really go over well.
Yeah.
Why is this guy such an asshole?
Yeah, literally, wow, man,
what's his deal?
He's aggressive. It's like, okay.
I love you.
Yeah, I love you, but so, and then the Brit. They really caught it amazingly well, didn't they?
My wife, who's watches intently, could not believe that the entire task team was either British or Irish or South African.
Salli, you arrived literally into Brad's backyard to take on work on the show. I was wondering what the tone meetings were like between you, and was there a location that he took you to, or a place that you visited that served as kind of a eureka moment for you to unlock your own understanding of the visual palette of the show?
Well, I'd have to say that I've seen every piece of woods.
In all of
And
Pennsylvania.
Yes, all of Pennsylvania. That really was, some of my episodes and later on really take place outside of the city, and really had to explore. My DP, Ellie, is here for my episode.
Ellie!
And I'm pretty sure that we've lost a year or two of our life from the amount of bug spray that we had to counter, and poison ivy that we walked through, and ticks, Lyme disease, this one. But I think, obviously, I love to say that every single home we went to was either a relative of Brad, or a teacher who taught with him. And so I think a lot of those people really welcomed me into the community very much. And I really learned a lot about Philly from them and from obviously hanging around with Brad.
But you had like that amazing moment in 3 with Maeve baptizing or showing Sam how to swim. And that's such a gorgeous moment. And that's the thing about Philly that's weird is like you'll be city, 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 blink your eyes and you were in the middle of the woods.
We searched and searched and searched for that particular spot that turned out to be the perfect place. Yeah.
That's one of my favorite moments of the series so far.
To Mark and Tom, so far you have not crossed paths on the show. How siloed were you during production? Were you checking for each other's dailies? Were you trying to track the other performance to meet each other midway? Or
They're in deep competition.
What's he up
What's
to?
he doing in
Today?
that? I would have played that differently. No way. He's amazing. We literally would be, I think we only saw each other in passing. And we'd just be like, ugh.
Mark told me the other day we had to do press for something. Mark told me the other day that before we even met, he watched me leave my trailer to go to set, and he could tell from about 100 yards away that I had ADHD.
Yep.
He's patting the pockets.
Where's my back here? Oh, fuck. Oh, I have it on.
I said, you could tell? He goes, oh, buddy. I love this guy. No, it was never on purpose. We just kind of didn't see each other too
We were
much.
in two totally different shows.
I know.
What's crazy is we don't ever actually meet in the show.
spoiler. But wait, without spoiling,
Is Marvel watching?
but Brad, how much, again, no spoilers obviously, but did you feel pressure in crafting these two characters cross scene?
Yeah, so I think the whole show is really structured as a collision course, and I think what we talked about was if that's the structure of the show and that's the engine of the show and the tension of the show, and not just for these two guys in the show, I think it's for. If we've done our job, it was always our hope that you care about everybody in the show. And so the tension is, oh God, I know this is going to be a collision and I'm scared. I'm scared to see what's going to happen. And if that's the structure of the show, and every week you're telling the audience they're getting a little closer, you have to pay it off. And the audience has to be satisfied with exactly what happens when the collision comes. So I felt immense pressure, and Salli and I spoke about this. I won't spoil anything, but this is something we always talked about was if that's the structure of a show, we have to pay it off. If we've been leading the audience along that these two are going to meet eventually, it had better be worth the wait.
Do they meet in a diner? Just the two of them?
Well, that was one I think that was one location we knew we had to avoid.
Yeah.
Chris,
Lanark Diner's right there.
I have to admit,
We shot in Lanark Diner.
I know. It's
the way that this was described to me however many years ago when this was first starting to come around and somebody was just like, it's heat in Philly. And I had to check that there were not hidden cameras around to make sure I wasn't getting punked. I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the genre elements of the show, because this episode sort of concludes in this really tense 20-minute sequence that involves the park situation and then also the road. Can't wait to find out where you guys shot the cliff stuff. But it's confusing. It's confusing for the characters, and I think it's confusing as a first pass as an audience member, and you have trust in the show that it's going to resolve itself and everything. But how do you guys, Salli and Brad, decide this is how much the audience knows, this is how much the characters know, and this is how much we have to keep held back until future episodes?
I think that some of that came out in editing, and we really spent the time to grab extra looks from people, other people, thinking so that we could maybe come back and tease you guys a little bit. Is it her? Is it him? And I think that a lot of that is in editing, don't you think? I mean, obviously you've set it up but just figuring out how we're going to lay it out later and having different, at least that's my job. Give Brad lots of different choices so we can figure out how we really want to weave this together at the very end.
I think Sally's onto it, and she does such a wonderful job of giving us tons of pieces. It's true. She has amazing storyboards, and she's way ahead of us on set. But I think that's the idea, is to have more in the edit. And so when you get to a sequence like this one, you play it a few ways, and then you put yourself in the seat of the viewer and go, is the viewer ahead of us? Are they behind us? Is the tension still there? It's the order of revelation. When are things revealed? And that's something we did in Mayor a lot. Mm-hmm. And it's something we do in this show a lot, is just when you reveal things as opposed to what you reveal. It's when you reveal them. And I think that this is a good sequence that explains that, or is just like, when do you reveal that Cliff isn't where he's supposed to be? And I think that's just watching it in trial and error and see which version of the sequence is playing. We did a lot of versions of this sequence. We did a lot. And sometimes you just got to watch it a few times and go, is this the best version of the sequence that's hitting the emotional beats and the surprises?
Do you have any extra footage of the couple who lost their dog?
Yeah.
Do you ever consider, I don't want to tell you how to do your job, but do you ever consider just...
I was very happy that people laughed at that, because you never know.
I can't. What do you think they talked about when they got home that night? It's just like, maybe dog ownership is not worth it.
They never found that dog.
Yeah.
Damn shame what they did
That's
to that
season
dog.
2. Is you guys looking for the dog?
Maybe season 2, HBO.
One of my favorite things about the show, and this is definitely a compliment to you, Brad, is that the show never always validates the internal struggle of these two characters. They have had really, really, really wildly hard things happen to them, but the show also doesn't shy away from the actual consequences of that internal struggle. That there's a responsibility for that behavior. And without getting too into the weeds of preparation or ADHD, I wondered to both you guys, like Mark, as an actor, how do you bring Tom's home struggle, what's going on in his personal life, to work with him as he has to manage these kids in the workplace? Like, just as an actor, how do you carry that into those scenes?
It's just like our lives. We're always carrying our home life everywhere we go. Tom's home life is just... it's eminently part of his existence, and it's on the forefront for a long time until Sam is gone, till we realize that Sam's been kidnapped. There's a lot of duplicating, he's looking for this boy, and his boy is gone, and he's trying to hold together this task force of misfits, and his family's this task force of misfits. Brad does this really beautifully, and it's constantly informing things. But by the way, Sylvie Vicari, who plays my daughter Emily, is here.
Sylvia, stand up.
Where are you, Syl?
Stand up, Sylvia.
Sylvia.
Stand up, Sylvia.
Yeah, baby. Bravo! Amazing. So, yeah, and then she comes to work with me when I do. Here, she's here with me now.
And to you, Tom, I was wondering, one of the incredibly compelling things about Robbie is that he does have this almost sweethearted belief in the future that he deserves. And I wondered how much of that was tied to the fact that he's spent a decade or more hauling other people's garbage, and yet he still believes that he deserves something better than that. Just curious how you balance that. Like the moment, particularly, we could talk in this episode that is so heartbreaking, the dance. It is agonizing to watch, but I wondered, as you play it, do you have to play that he believes he's going to take her to the dance, so that they will have other opportunities to dance in the future?
$1 million and a trip to Canada.
Well, there's two parts of that. One is, this is how we all get out of bed in the morning, isn't it? We all hope that there's better days ahead. I hope we all do, for all of us, for ourselves, for everybody else. I think that's the reason that Robbie's so relatable, is because we all have that. Even sometimes you have a bad day or maybe a bad month, but it comes back around. It always comes back around. And as far as that dance goes, yeah, I don't know. I'll say this about it. I got to become a father 2.5 years ago. Yeah, it's the wildest, the greatest thing ever, 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 by a million times. And being around those kids now, getting to play, I've played characters before or have kids, but like knowing what it means now, like the infinite depth of the meaning that you could only guess at before, makes everything so rich, regardless of what's happening in the show. One thing I never had a single question about was, would you do this for your kids? The answer, fuck yeah. Oh yeah. Anything, you know?
But there's an incredible balance to that scene, which is the dance, which is the scene with Maeve, where he kind of presents this Canada dream, and she asks all the questions a parent would ask a kid who was like, guess what? I'm going on a road trip. And you're just like, okay, where are you gonna sleep? How are you gonna eat? How are you gonna pay for gas? And it's like, she's just like, where are the kids gonna go to school? Like, where are we gonna buy groceries? And that's, I mean, you and Amelia have such an incredible thing in this series, but that moment, can you just tell me a little bit about playing that scene and Robbie's dreams kind of coming down to earth there?
Yeah, you know, it's really interesting that you bring that scene up, because that was truly actually one of the hardest ones for me. Do you remember? Yeah. Do you remember how much I was tripping that day?
Well, yeah, because you're trying to, you're just trying to balance, like, you have so many places that you need to get to. And where are we going too far? Am I giving too much up now?
Sure.
Like,
and how much do you fight?
Exactly.
Yeah, no, because obviously Salli was directing that day, and that was strangely a scene that I struggled a lot with in a way that I didn't with some other scenes. And to your point, yes. You know, it's so interesting sometimes, like, when you think about, right, like acting, I'd be an acting nerd right now, real quick. But you think about an acting relationship, and it's not a literal thing. So Maeve's my niece, but my relationship to Maeve is often mom, which doesn't make any literal sense. But like, when I'm playing scenes with her, I often just give over to what arises if I act like she's my mom.
Yeah.
You know? And that's what we do in life too. We just don't think about it. Like, we have an acting relationship with people that's not the same as our literal relationship. So you really want to try and find that. The last thing I'll say about that is, how fucking good is Amelia? She is.
Yeah.
She is so talented. She is so incredible. I mean, the way that girl works, the way she shows up prepared, and she's such a light and a delight, like, so impressive.
Yeah, those scenes pop for sure.
Salli, you've had a long career as a director, and you've directed all kinds of genres, including Los Angeles basketball genre. I wondered how do you approach scenes like the ones we're talking about now, just to stay with it, in terms of directing intimacy and comfort? You know, it's very different than the scale that you're sometimes asked to do, even within a show like this.
That's hard, because, I mean, obviously Brad is set up, you know, the words are there. So sometimes it's actually kind of easy. I mean, I have beautiful words. I have two great actors who've done their job. And my job is just to sort of gently guide them to the right spot. And
not always gently.
Not. Someone doesn't like continuity.
Is this another sandwich thing, or what is it?
It's Tom.
No. But really, I mean, I was an actress for many years before I did this, so I don't come to any scene with any expectations, and sometimes I'll have actors who will ask me for notes before they even start. Not these people, but, you know, before they even start. So anything for me? I'm like, no, I don't know what you're going to do. And I really have to watch the performance, and for me, it's a feeling inside, and knowing if I feel it and if I believe it. A lot of times with Mark, he'd come up and go, what do you think? And he would always know, because sometimes I don't know what to tell you, but I just know it's not right yet. And you know it's not right yet. And
that's why I was asking you.
Yeah, I know. So we're both going,
it's not right.
It's not right. I don't know.
Should we do it again?
I think we should do it again.
Okay, let's do it one more time.
I mean, but sometimes that is it? Or sometimes it's one word or asking a question. I think a lot of times I would just ask you a question.
And I go, oh.
Yeah, because by asking a question, you start, oh, yeah, you're right. Okay, yeah, I haven't thought about that.
Especially when the question is, don't you think that could be better?
But I mean, it's just a very hard question. Yeah. I think I just let them guide me, and then I know what to tell them. And sometimes it's just simply, can you do that faster? And
that was a big one.
Yeah,
for
that
me.
was. You like that note, don't you? Can you just do that faster?
I know exactly what you want.
I was asking Tom, I was saying to him outside of the theater that this seems like the kind of thing that if he wasn't in, he would be watching. Like, it's the kind of like crime show, awesome like piece of crime storytelling. And Mark, you were in one of my favorite crime films, Collateral. It was set in Los Angeles.
Thank you.
I wish you bring that goatee back. It was sick. The slick back hair, it was awesome. I was wondering if you had any...
That was me in Collateral.
Anyone like on the panel, honestly, if there were any reference points from whether it was other series or other films that you were like, this is the kind of thing we're looking for, because the show has a very unique feel, but also has like, points where it echoes, maybe some classic crime films.
I mean, I think for me it was structurally Heat was an influence there, but I think the movie that spoke to me, and it's the reason we have a core, was Breaking Away. I don't know why, but that's a movie that I grew up watching all the time. It still resonates with me. It's about friendship. And it's why we have a quarry in the show, is I've always wanted to tell a story, like Breaking Away, that was about friendship. And I really think Robbie and Cliff's story is a story of friendship. So I think that was an influence on me. In terms of the crime story, Heat was there. I think The Town was another one that it kind of plays in a similar arena, I think. And then just trying to keep the emotion in the front of the piece, so embrace the genre expectations while also trying to subvert it. And I think that's what we did in Mare too. Is we wrapped our arms around the whodunit, but we also tried to go a little deeper with the characters and the relationships within the community. So I think those are, strangely Breaking Away was a big influence on me, especially for the Robbie storyline.
That's awesome. I never would have thought that.
That's great.
They got to reboot Breaking Away, but the cyclists are robbing stash houses.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Who throws their pump into his spokes? Jamie.
So, Brad, on the.
Sorry, I don't know that one.
Oh God.
On the podcast a couple weeks ago, when the show premiered, I was, as we often are these weeks, finding different ways to compliment you and your writing. And there was one thing in specific that I said on the pod that I'd like to bring up again here, which is, I was reading a novel recently, and there's a character who teaches literature, and she says the advice that she tells her students is make it worse. Yeah. Not in terms of quality, but like make everyone's situation the most extreme version of it, so you can really see the stakes here.
Yes.
And you are exceptional at that. Everything is terrible. Without spoiling things, I wondered if you could talk a little bit about how you would grade yourself on how bad you made it in the episode still to come.
Ooh.
And you guys can chime in as well.
Yeah, on the episode still to come, you're saying, Andy.
Well, you could give us both sides, the A side and the B side.
So I always think a question I ask myself when I'm starting to write something is, why are we dropping in at this point in a character's life? Why right now? And I think I can answer that for every character in the show. I think I can say, why are we coming into Lizzie's life right now, right? Why are we coming into Grasso's? Why are we coming into Aaliyah's? And so I like to play that game. In the case of Tom and Robbie, they're both going through a crisis of faith in some way. Tom's is a more overt crisis of faith. He's quite literally lost his faith. Robbie's is he has a faith. It's just quite a different faith. And so I think I made things as painful for both of them as I possibly could. Yeah. And I think what I like about that is that it gives them a wider arc, I would say. And I felt that way about the character of Mare too, is that I had to start her in a place of a lot of pain in order to get some level of healing at the end. And I think I like to have big arcs for characters in a show. And so in order to get a greater distance, you have to start them in a slightly lower place. In this case, they're both. So I would say A+ for the the pain I put on these characters, all the characters in the show. Really.
But I think that's what I loved about it was so much is that I feel like that's why people can relate to it so much. I don't find it that much different than people's reality. Maybe we don't have murder happening, but we've all been through terribly awful things in our life, and we're jumping into that in this film at that time. So I think that's why I enjoyed it so much, that I feel it so like deeply on an emotional level. And it was wonderful to be able to get such great words to direct.
Tom,
Thank you,
I mean, when it's this incredibly pivotal moment in a character's life, but also seemingly like every scene is he's going through like an absolute gauntlet. Like Robbie is like, are you almost like good? Let's just jump in it. Like let's. I don't need 10 scenes where I'm just doing exposition and walking around. Like I like being in this, or is it daunting?
Yeah, I want to get in there. Yeah, I mean, when you're in there with Brad and with Salli and Jeremiah, you stay in there all day. And you get in there and you're with people who understand what they're doing and understand that all of it is in service of the story. And you do that and you leave it at work. And then you go home in a good mood. Everything about the process was a joy, even the painful parts. And that's what happens when you're around really talented people who know how to run the ship kind of. But no, I'm comfortable there.
I think we can wrap up there, guys. Thank you so much for participating in this tonight. Mark, Tom, Salli, Brad, thank you so much for Andy and I. Thank you to everybody for coming out. Thank you to Vidiots, KCRW. And you can watch or listen to this on the Watch feed tomorrow at some point. Yeah.
Go Birds.